Soundstripe. Welcome to South End Supporters, a St. Louis City SC podcast powered by Ready to Live Wellness and coming at you from the Warrior Logo Wear studio. Eric Cole alongside the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff, as David Heck is out this evening. Probably just couldn't handle any more just losing. What a rough week it was for City. First dropping 4-2 at home to Orlando, and then traveling a little bit more west to Houston and dropping 1-0 there. But before we get into all that, of course, Dave, how are we doing this evening?
Well, I've been beaten down by this team so much that I have abandoned the studio and moved to the couch, partially because I'm going to monitor the Man City Al Hilal game, but also because it's just frustrating and painful. And
I feel like your stance right now, your the way you're chilling, has almost kind of reflected maybe like City's output. It's just very laid back, and relaxed, and just not
lazy.
As much
lazy,
beaten
up.
Yeah. If you give up a goal later, I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense as well. So yeah.
I'll give up goals all night. Absolutely. No defense whatsoever. Realistically, just the last week being on the road and all the driving and everything have just kind of worn out my back and my neck muscles. We're not aging well. At least I'm not aging well. You're aging like a fine wine. But I have clearly turned to vinegar.
Dave, I haven't really moved well since, what was that, last Thursday when I came back out and played. My knee has been clicking, popping, and doing everything but what it's supposed to since then. So I don't know about this whole aging I think it's just I try to put a mask on the outside to make it look like things are going okay. But yeah, how was your trip, by the way? Minnesota, right?
Yeah, it was fine. The weather was up and down. One real nice day, a couple rainy days, then one okay day. The Metro Alliance 2012 girls, they showed well, but they did not advance. It wasn't for lack of quality. They were in all three games, but were only able to win one. And the team that ended up winning the whole thing, they actually were beating them 1-0 at one point, and just could not. It was a really good team from California. But shout out to those girls. It was really kind of bittersweet because that group has been together for 5 years now, and they are the band's breaking up, so to speak. You got some people leaving for various reasons. Won't get into it here. Let's just say that the ugly side of what youth club soccer has become has reared its head once again, and we'll leave it at that. But the girls have nothing to hold their head about. They had a long season. I mean, these girls, and not to dive in too much to this because obviously the audience for this is limited, but those girls started training for this season basically in July of last year. They started with like preseason workouts and whatnot, and then they started actual team trainings in August, went all the way through the fall, the winter, took a little break in December, but we're right back at it in January, and then, just finished up this week. So that's a long season for anybody, much less 13-year-old girls. So shout out to them. That was really cool. Hey, the last thing I'll say about this, Eric, this was awesome. So the coach and I separately played on those fields, him 30 years ago, me 25 years ago, in not the same tournament, but a very similar tournament. So it was kind of cool. I kind of got to have that moment with Zoe and pull her aside and kind of say, 25 years ago, I was right here playing in what was the biggest tournament for me at the time, and just try to get her to appreciate the moment. So very cool. So yeah, and also I sent Eric some pictures, and I think I put them on Discord. Got to experience some Minnesota cuisine, most notably the stuffed burger, aka the Juicy Lucy from the Nook. Shout out Chris Gebhardt for giving us the recommendation to go there. Definitely did not disappoint. And then actually got to go watch a competent, offensive-minded soccer team on Wednesday. Minnesota United put it on Houston. That was a cool experience. That is a, and I texted Eric this. That's definitely a destination road trip that is probably on the fringes of being drivable, 8.5 hours. But I think you could probably make a 3.5 day weekend out of it. And if you haven't been there before, you need to go. Minnesota Allianz Field is very cool. So it's in a weird area. They like just dropped it in the middle of a neighborhood, but like in this giant like parking lot in the middle of the neighborhood. So it's really kind of jarring. It looks like this big UFO, but the park on the inside is great. It holds sound. It holds noise incredibly. And it's not completely open. It's got a little bit of artificial artificial barriers, I guess you want to say, but very cool experience. Shout out to the Loons. That was a cool game.
Yeah, was that something that you guys had planned, or was it like a spur of the moment? You're like, hey, we're here, we might as well go check them out.
It lined up, and I figured it lined up 2 months ago, and I was just thinking, if it works out where they had their off day on Wednesday, we could have gone to that game, and it worked out nicely. They're a good team, and the ticket prices are kind of hovering, kind of around city levels. But the weather kind of drove those down a little bit, and I was able to get. I sent you the pictures, Eric, and I think I'll put them on Discord and the socials too, but. 3 rows off the corner at the field level. They're pretty decent seats for about $25 a piece. So
oh wow, those were only 25. Yeah, those are great seats.
And Zoe was so upset. So we're right there by the corner. She's like, "Oh, we're going to be on TV. We're going to be able to yell at these guys." Not one corner in front of us. All 3 of the other corners, they had multiple corners on, not the one in front of us. So it was fun. It was cool. It was really cool to be at a game where you just went to watch good play and you had no dog in the fight. Yeah.
No, I totally get that. That would be a nice experience just to like you said, just enjoy the football, and either team scores, you're like, you can appreciate it a little bit more, because it is tough sometimes when you're at a game or you're watching a game and the opposing team scores like a golazo and you feel like you can't appreciate it because you're mad at whatever your team did. So that is a cool experience. Exactly. But shout out to Zoe for even making it there for her whole team. That's still a great accomplishment, and then also super cool that full circle moment of you guys playing on the same field. But
glad
wild,
you guys, right?
Very wild. I can't imagine that. I'm trying to think of like any of the fields that I played on that I would be like, man, I remember being here. Probably Muscatine, Iowa would probably be the closest that I remember those fields for sure. But super cool experience. Glad you guys had a good trip. Unfortunately, we're not here to talk about a winning team like the Minnesota Loons. We're here to talk about the losing team, which is St. Louis City, as we said at the beginning. Dropped at home 4-2 to Orlando, and then again on the road 1-0 to Houston. Dave, how we want to go about this? We want to talk about the positive things we noticed first, or just kind of the negative things that we're noticing? Which one? I mean, positive, I feel like, would be a little quicker. How you want to go about it?
Yeah, I mean, the negatives have kind of been beaten into the ground. So let's touch on those real quick, like the glaring ones in either game real quick. So to me, the glaringly obvious deficiencies in the Orlando game were that you just came out just inexcusably flat and sort of maybe, I don't know if Critch used the word, but maybe naive as to what Orlando is really capable of. That's a good team, man. And you don't go 11 unbeaten. You don't go a run of 11 unbeaten and not put a good product out there. So I don't know. I don't think it was lack of preparation. I just think that it just maybe just as a whole they just weren't locked in and ready to. And when I say lack of preparation, like they were scouted right. They were prepared, like tactically correct. they just didn't come out with enough intensity to match what Orlando. And who knows what happened if instead of 3 goals in, what was it, 25 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
If instead they stopped the bleeding after 1, then maybe you come on afterwards. But certainly cannot afford to start that poorly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Orlando? I mean, there's individual lapses. Jay Reed had a really brutal game. Watts had a really brutal game. I mean, what stands out in your mind?
Mainly early on, what it felt like, and Critch kind of maybe hinted to this a little bit, was it seemed like we were trying to beat Orlando to the press, like beat them almost at their own game. Like, we're going to outpress you. But what it felt like, and kind of rewatching it back, it felt the same, was we were running just into space, like not running almost, with that purpose, proper cutting off lanes. And then by doing so and just going so full bore and finding yourself, you're so far out of position that Orlando just found all the space in the world that they wanted to. And it was really glaring, just, especially in the middle of the park. I think, like you kind of touched on, I think Akil just had an off night. I think Heaves had a real off night as well, just kind of finding himself in no man's land a few times. It felt like overpressing. And then to your point, and Critch kind of talked on this about us scoring, how we needed to really focus on the next 5 to 10 minutes of not allowing them in. I think the same goes for if the other team scores. I think you need to really focus on those next 5 to 10 minutes and get things kind of back under control. And City did not do that because, it was down 2-0 within, the 5-minute span, it felt like. It was just – and then – it was great to see them fight back, bring it at least to within, 3-2 at half. It was a very, wild and exciting half. So, a positive you could take is you're getting your 2, strikers on the board, which, that you always want that at least. But really looking at that game, I mean, that game could have been 8-9-2 if it wasn't for Berkey making some fantastic saves within the game. So I just felt like it was just I think you might be close on the step back in preparation. Maybe just overexcited or under appreciating the opponent, thinking I can just run at him and he won't be able to do what he does. It just felt a little bit too, just not. I don't know if prepared's a word, but not tactically smart on the night. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe there's some of this, and let me know what you think about it. But like you're so undermanned at this point and so just beaten down that you really have 2 choices. You bunker in like Olaf and you try to absorb all the pressure and you hope that your all-world goalie can keep it close enough for you to catch him on the counter. Or you can go out there and try to do what you do well and live up to your identity and press and try to take the game to them. Now, I am always of the opinion that you should die on your shield. You should go out doing what you do best. But I recognize that the quality that you were up against in that game exceeded most of what you've played in the last 4, right? Like, Orlando is probably the best team that they've played in, a month, if you just look at the standings and you just look at the run of form. So was it a little naive that they thought that they could go out and just try to play their game with an undermanned side and, beat Orlando at their own game? Maybe. But at this point, I would rather see them go out like that. And hey, listen, 3-2. And they had chances to tie it up too. It's just you can't. It's too hard of a game to constantly have to dig yourself out of a hole like that. I'll say on the positive side, you're not getting any lack of effort or enthusiasm from your goalkeeper, like you touched on. Like he's playing out of his mind. He's playing like he wants to win. He's playing like he wants a contract, somewhere, even if it's not with City. So that's great to see. Klaus continuing his run of goal scoring, and he had a couple more that he could have very easily scored. I think there's a really good Instagram clip of him taking somebody on the offensive left, defensive right, where he very easily could have beat the goalie on the near side, and a couple other chances. Great to see Betcher get back on the score sheet. I feel like if you get him putting balls in the back of the net now, and you have a two-headed monster, you're a lot more likely to be able to win some of those games, 4-3, 3-2, stuff like that. That ball by Totes was immaculate.
Yeah.
The ball into Betcher, like, it was inch perfect measured. That's what we need to see more out of him. I wish that was what we saw more of the left side too. Jay Reed has got something going on, some sort of mental block where he's not. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. He's not going forward and staying back. He's timid and making mistakes on defense, which, you know, came up into the season. Alpha last season was so much promise, and you don't wonder if maybe physically he's still not right from that foot. Maybe he hasn't gotten a chance. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but the positives were few and far between. But at this point, you're so far, and even before this game, you're such a long odds to make the playoffs that you really have to look and see what you've got. So I don't know. A 3-2 loss against a really good team in the Eastern Conference at home. Yeah, you want it to be a fortress, but you know it was a good effort. It seemed like.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up. Like, you know, we're just over the halfway point in the season. At what point do you almost look at, you know, not necessarily even the playoff picture in your mind, but more just like, what positives are we picking out from this team that we will go forward from? And then, you know, maybe that helps you with what personnel you keep around going next year and that type of stuff. Like, I have to feel like that position's getting closer and closer as that playoff picture is getting farther and farther away. I'm also hoping maybe the more you kind of just the whole organization highlights the positives that they're seeing with on the pitch, they lean into those more, and then that maybe could help bring results towards the end of the season as well. Yeah, there were many times where right in front of us we see Jay Reed coming down, and he just looked hesitant. He would either try and go baseline, and, you know, a lot of times just his touch would get away from him or something like that. But there'd be some times where it's like, you got the space, put it in there. Like, you know, just put it in the mixer and see what, you know, happens from there, rather than just continuing to funnel it back out to Hartle and then hoping he can play it in. Because a lot of times when he plays it in, it's that floated, nothing's going to get on the top of that.
Yeah.
You know, catch him off guard by putting one in early. The other thing is like, man, it's frustrating watching Celio do his thing and be successful at it, whether he grains a corner, whether he gets a cross in, whether he, you know, gets a foul, and then we just deter away from it for a while. And it's just like, man, it's working. Like, just keep feeding them the ball and let them do it. I mean, just to get ahead a little bit, that Houston game, can you say how many times they said Celio's name? Because you could probably count it on one hand. He was non-existent. Yeah. And one thing we talked on when we were texting, and something that the guy behind me at the game kind of brought up as well. He's like, what's something that this team is just missing? And just, you know, that why are we here? What is going on? And one of the big things I highlighted was, you know, within the MLS, you really need your DPs to be successful. I mean, and it's tough when, and hey, it's great that he was, because like I highlighted, it could have been way worse, but it's tough when one of those DPs is your goalie, because that limits you as far as on the field contribution. You know what I mean? Like that standout player. And then when you have, you know, one who's just kind of catching back on, you know, Klaus is kind of getting his feet back under him finally. But, I mean, Hartle really has been, I'm not saying he's playing bad, but as far as, you know, what we probably need out of a DP, he's been very low. I think I looked at his stats today, and I think he's on like 1 goal, 2 assists. I mean, you need more in this league from a DP-type player. Same with, you know, Teutschert. I mean, he's really been kind of struggling lately, and it seems, you know, like frustration's really kicking in with Teutschert as well. If he's not receiving these passes, there was a couple balls I remember where it's like, man, that would he has to make that run, and that's a tap in for him. And he was making those runs before, and now he's not as much, or he's back to like hesitant on either a shot or a cross. There was one play where he had all sorts of acres of space, and he takes a touch, and he takes another touch, and then he dribbles it straight out of bounds. He just has a mistouch and dribble it. It's like, man, we got to pull the trigger on those at some point. It's a lot of lacking confidence that you're seeing from these guys, but I think you need these high level players to be performing, and that's where I think City's really lacking at the moment. But one thing that we were talking about with both these games is it just, we don't really have that player. I feel like well, as long as he's on the field, I think we have a chance. And we kind of talked back and forth about Celio has that potential to be that guy to turn that game over. And this is something that he was kind of critiqued for in the past, with the consistency just isn't there. He'll have like a stellar game and then go on a run of two where it's like, did we even say his name throughout that game? And whether it's his fault or not, but like, you look in this, those players that are successful that'll get you those goals. You got to think, like, anytime Messi's on the field, Inter Miami's probably going to be within there. Bouanga, anytime Bouanga's out there. Brian White for Vancouver. Like, there's those types of players where it's like you look and you're like, hey, he's out there and he can make some. He's that guy who can get us 2 goals in 10 minutes. Like, you just feel that danger. And I'm struggling finding that person on the team. Klaus can be there. He showed that he can have those spurts but again, the consistency just really isn't. And I don't feel that. And I don't think the league feels that threat out of Klaus. Hopefully he's catching on to where we're getting to that point. But I think that's something City's just really lacking right now, is just that one guy. And again, injuries and full health of a team maybe will bring out that in these other guys. They need that support to be able to be that way. But right now, I think that's just been the biggest thing, is there's just not that guy for us that I feel can just completely take over a game and keep us in it till the final whistle.
No, you're absolutely right. I'll touch on Celio first. He has to take more responsibility on. And I'll come back to this talking about roles in a minute. Klaus is a very clever player, but he's never going to be that guy that is going to go, at least it's not going to be the norm. It may happen every now and then, but he's not this swashbuckling winger. Like, he's a clever 9 that will really fool you with his speed and his quickness, and his finishing is, when it's on, and right now it's on. But that's not a guy that is going to go do it himself. He doesn't. Creating his own chances is really not what he does. He moves well into space a lot, and I think what's remarkable about his little mini run he's on right now is he's doing it without their best distributor in Leuven, because he's a finisher, man. He's a poacher. He's somebody who strikes the ball well. So the fact that he's doing it without your best distributing midfielder right now is really kind of remarkable. It kind of makes you think where they would be if Leuven was able to be out there. But as far as roles, and I don't want to pick specifically on Celio, but this is partially due to injury. I mean, you're missing so many people and down the middle of the field. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Your weak spot is your spine, and you can tell. But when you have major players that are removed, you're having bench players placed into those spots, or you're having players that are starters being pulled into different roles. And I think Marcel Hartl is one of those. He's feeling a lot. He seems like he's feeling a lot of pressure to be a Leuven, and he's not Leuven. He's Marcel Hartl. He doesn't sit back at the 6 and drop these balls in behind and make these big switches. He should be attacking. He should be attacking from the 10 spot, or attacking from that left side striker spot, where he was when he first came in. And I feel like the longer it's gone where he's been asked to do more with less, the more his confidence is shot. And I'll say the same thing about Cedric Teucher. He's a very direct player. He's not going to fool you with a lot of finesse. But he's being asked to be more of a finesse player now, and he doesn't have the distribution. Same thing with Klaus, and his finishing is off right now, clearly. So I think a lot of what is going on and what's been going on this season is you got guys that are just being asked to do a lot more than you would want to ask them to do. And the problem with that is your margin for error as a team is so small, because you don't have a team full of these number 10s and these DP, high level. I'm not even talking about like Messi, but I'm talking about, you don't have a Brian White. You don't have a a Paintsel or a Gabriel Peck, or you don't have game changers. So everything has to be so perfect, and through injuries and ineffectiveness, it's just really been exposed.
Yeah, I mean, you even think about just Hartle, for instance. Think about what that game preparation has to be for him. Like, it's like, all right, we're going to start you. You're going to be on the outside left of the attacking three in this 4-2-3-1. And then, at halftime, it's like, all right, now we're moving you central because we're bringing in, whoever, Silva. He's going to play out wide. You're going to be more central. And then as the game goes on, he's like, okay, well, now we need to sub out Watts. We're dropping you back to the 6 now. Like, that game preparation of thinking, like, I don't know what my role really is going to be coming into this game. Am I going to look to be distributing or creating out on the wing, looking for crosses and receiving the ball wide? Am I going to be looking to be in an attacking role, distributing out in all different ways? Am I going to be looking to hold back and hold a little bit of defensive shape? Like, you're right. It's such a tough point for all these guys to really shine when they're missing so many supporting roles that they need. Even you look back at the defense, I mean, really, it's showing more and more just how valuable Kess being in there really will be, just as far as an organizational standpoint, distribution out of the back, just all sorts of things that you're kind of struggling to see right now. And I really feel like from there, man, if we could just get Kess and Leuven back, I think it would be a night and day difference. And to your point, it really is great to see Klaus getting on his role and shows to the quality of it, because a lot of those goals are kind of created from himself and his work that he does, because he really, really relies on that Leuven distribution and finding him and all that type of stuff. So it's tough. It's a tough run. It's going to continue to be tough until we, kind of get healthy. And I think you're going to see bits and pieces where you're trying to find the positives that you see within the game, and you're trying to limit the negatives with what you have available. But it's just going to be tough when you're going up against such strong opponents like you did with Orlando. Houston, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that game. There was just no flow from either team, really. Foul City, really, and you looked at the unevenness of fouls called within the the game. It was just an ugly game all around from both sides. I was looking at it thinking, like, this game should be a 0-0, because I don't feel like either team really deserved anything, out of that as far as goals wise. I couldn't really find anything to build off, both positive or negative, because it was just such a dysfunctional game. And that, you want to talk about one that's just not enjoyable to watch, that was one of those games, because no flow, constant stoppage from fouls or just cause of stoppage of play, just nothing really to go from there.
Yeah, it was a gross
really have
game.
Nothing to
you can go ahead and say it. It was gross.
Yeah.
No, it was disgusting. The referee, it was very poorly reffed. And I was saying that when it was 0-0, not just because City lost, but the foul discrepancy in the first half was it was like 2-1, and City somehow ended up with both of their wingbacks with cards. Zielinski got a card in the first minute, which was a joke.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a very sloppy game. Both teams were tired. Both teams had come off of giving up a lot of goals. It was just not enjoyable to watch, and the effort was, I mean, for the most part, very uninspired once again by most everybody. I know it was hot and muggy down in Houston, but you got to figure it out, man. The biggest positives out of this, I think, were how competent Wenzel and JGR looked as a center back duo. I thought that was really exciting. Yeah. It wasn't some, sparkling, like, oh my gosh, like these two guys are going to be MLS All-Stars moment, but seeing those two get time is fun for me. I hope that continues with more and more of these younger players. Like, if you're going to be at the bottom anyway, let's get McSorley and Joyner and Glover and who the hell else ever, up and get them some valuable minutes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The youth has been shining I thought McSorley, when he came in, he showed some good movements in the Orlando game, and then I said right away, just with Wenzel and JGR, it looked like Critch was looking for distribution out of the back, a little bit more confidence on the ball, and I think it really showed with those two. And I thought they put in a good performance back there. I mean, I can't really think of too many times where there was a step out of place. But so I mean, yeah, I'm maybe that's something that, like we were touching on, that as the season goes on, if things continue the way, that's something that's a positive that they're looking to build off of. Is I know it's tough when you're trying to give out loans and you can't really give these guys the full, run that you would maybe like on a contract. But yeah, Zielinski as well. I think he's still, I think had it not been for, he had a few mistakes in that game, but I mean, when you're playing on a card within 2 minutes the way he was, it's tough as a defender to really play your game the rest of the time because you're trying to be physical, but you're walking a tightrope. But so at least you're picking that up as I just feel like there's a fire in those guys. They're not looking at this as a season lost or anything like that. They're looking at this as an opportunity to possibly get their names out there. I think McSorley's just finally trying to cash in on those DraftKings bets that he keeps. He's trying to up his odds even more because, I mean, I take that as a positive. That every time the youth has come in, we've really had nothing but good things to say. I think their tough thing is you're still looking to get them a little bit of experience, but hopefully they get a little bit more time throughout this year. I'm hoping. But
and get some
anything
confidence
else from these. Exactly. And I think just getting that call and your number being put on the board to go in the game should boost a ton of confidence for those guys, especially you look at, not fully out of the game when McSorley came in. And so which is also crazy to think that, it's one of those things where you're wondering, like, okay, well, what was Zonde Silva brought in for? If you're looking at McSorley as like, I'd rather that guy than over, somebody that we've picked up. It's kind of questionable to me. Where's Zonde's role? Who really wanted him in the role that saw that he would be a successful fit in there? It's kind of getting more and more shown. Maybe it's a Baumgartel situation where after half a season almost he starts getting playing time and he starts building on that confidence, but I don't know. But either way, McSorley came in, took his moments, and I thought he performed well. So anything else that you're picking out of those first two games or those past two games?
No, I just, there was a moment, and we can end on this. There was a moment, and it was the moment where Houston scored, where you saw several players that decided that they didn't want to be a part of the play and were standing around and watching. I hope that Critch looks at that film and says, okay, boys, you may think that this is a lost season, but if you're not going to go out there and sell out and be desperate in defending and do everything you can for the badge, I'm going to sit you on the bench and put other people in there who will. Money be damned, contract be damned. I cannot, as a fan, abide a goal where you have multiple midfielders standing 3 or 4 yards away from the ball and not doing what they can to keep it out of the back of the net. So not singling out any one player because there were several, but I feel like that should have been, if they have film tomorrow or whatever, I feel like that still should be the first thing that those players see when they walk into that film room.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think it's starting to show more and more as the season goes on. And as we kind of touched on a little earlier, like, I don't think anybody should really feel 100% confident that their name should be etched in that starting 11 each week. You run with who's hot and who's playing and who's giving the effort for the badge. And I think outside of that, Berkey, you get Berkey's name penciled in, but it's not to really take a big knock on Lunt because we saw what he can still perform for us. So I feel like even now, if Berkey's name's not in there, it's a worry. But I'm not as not confident. But anybody else on the team right now, if they're on the bench or something like that, and it's not an injury, I'm looking at that at this point now is we got to try and find something that's working. You've had 18, 19 games at this point. We got to start figuring out who's to play who's here to play for the badge and give 100% at all times, and not just assume that they're penciled in on the roll. So
everyone should be playing for their job.
Unfortunately, 100%. And, you know, for the rest of the season, for years to come, whatever it may be, now, I mean, it should have been this way the whole time, but you got to realize now you're playing for your spot. It's back to high school days where you're playing for your spot at all times for every game. And hopefully Critch runs who's hot, and hopefully we start seeing a little bit more of these positives pop up. And even if it's the young guys, if it's trending in the way and we're seeing hard out there, I think results and, you know, better results will hopefully come. But again, unfortunately, City drops at home to Orlando that Wednesday night 4-2, and then again to Houston this past Saturday 1-0. They'll look to bounce back this upcoming Saturday, still out on the road. Saturday, July 5th, they'll be heading out to Salt Lake to take on Real Salt Lake. A little later start time, but not too bad like the full West Coast. It'll be an 8:30 p.m. start time. Again, they'll head out to Real Salt Lake. We'll have our STL Kalachi preview coming up a little later this week. But before we get into that, you know, Dave, it was been a little bit hotter out there. I don't know if you've noticed it, and especially in the stadium Wednesday night, it was a little muggy. And the other thing that I'm starting to notice is, you know, with, you know, turnover of a lot of tickets and stuff like that, the standing is definitely dwindled down and stuff. But I found with the heat and everything, you got to keep in shape if you're going to be standing, sitting that whole time. And so I think all these fans should be going to check out Ready to Live Wellness for such training, because if you go in there and you say, hey, I'm just looking to go to City Park and stand up and down for 45 minutes straight, they'll be like, we got exactly what you need, because they'll tailor it to you, and then they'll make sure you're doing it in a safe place possible with all updated equipment and new spa and bathrooms all coming in as well. It's a perfect place to go check out your health and wellness, making sure you're doing everything safe, and then also looking after your body after your workouts. They've got body movement specialists, PTs, physical therapists, anything you need. It's all under one roof. It's at Ready to Live Wellness, so you got to go check them out as well at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard, as well at R2L Wellness online. And then, Dave, you know, that night I was there, I feel like now I need to start bringing like 2 or 3 shirts to the game, because I'm a sweater. I don't know about you, but I sweat so easily. So I think I might need to go check out our boys at Warrior Logo Wear to hook me up with some like custom City style, South End supporter style gear I can just flip in and out, tell the people about Warrior Logo Wear.
Well, if you do need any sportswear or any team sportswear or any individual sportswear, from t-shirts, hats, and hoodies to uniforms and promo swag, then you need to head to Warrior Logo Wear at 12 East Main Street in Mascoutah, Illinois, or warriorlogowear.com. They are a proud veteran-owned business that brings the same dedication, discipline, and attention to detail from their service time into every one of your projects. If you're interested, they can help you set up a fully customizable online store with your products featuring your logo or a logo they helped you design. There are no order minimums, and they are perfect for any size event or company. The online store setup is free, so there are no hidden fees. You know how much we hate those. They will ship products directly to your customers or employees. So check them out on Instagram at Warrior Logo Wear, all lowercase. Warrior Logo Wear on Twitter, capital W, capital L, capital W, or at warriorlogowear.com. Man, yeah, I had a real like drencher of a workout this morning. I just bought this Puma Dry Fit shirt yesterday and decided to try it out this morning, and it was like I went swimming in it. Like, and it wasn't even that hot this morning. It was just muggy. Can I ask you? I think we should be having you give like fitness tips, at least one every week. So I've got a good one.
Okay.
So, and this is just like what works best for you. But after you have a good workout, give me 3 things that you do, or maybe there aren't even 3 things, but give me 3 things that every like amateur, I don't want to say amateur lifter because it's not like you're a professional lifter, but you certainly do it a lot more and you're in the industry. What are 3 things that like just the average Joe should do to like stave off the delayed onset muscle soreness a day after a workout?
Yeah. So a couple things I like to do, and especially as I've gotten older, these have been more important. one is like a cool down recovery. So you finish your workout. Let's say even if you go running, even if I finish a heavy workout, what I'll do is I have like 200 meters and 400 meters marked out by my house that I'll typically run because that's what a track is, and I'll go walk 200 meters just nice and slow, bring my heart rate down comfortably, and it also helps kind of flush out any extra lactic acid and all that type of stuff. So a nice cool down, even if it's just, going into some stretching. Mobility is always going to be great, especially as you get older. It's going to, as those muscles tighten a little bit more, keeping them loose, it's going to help with that soreness. Eating, whether it's a protein shake or food is obviously, whole food is obviously better, but any sort of way you can get a little protein in your system to kind of also help fuel those muscles and rebuild them, because we break down our muscles after we work out and that type of stuff. But I'd say number one right now, especially with the summer heat, is hydrate. So when I go on those walks, I'll always have like a little shaker bottle that has like BCAAs or something in it that I'll sip throughout the workout. But post-workout, I have an extra water bottle that I'll just go on my walk with, and just making sure I'm staying hydrated, because dehydration for sure will kick up those onset muscle soreness, or just
the
soreness
DOMS.
the rest of the day. Like I can tell.
The dreaded DOMS.
Yes, I can tell the dreaded DOMS. And then, if you got extra stuff, like ice baths, I know you're big in the sauna and that type of stuff right now. Like that's good stuff as well to help kind of just anything that you can do to just help relax your muscles. Foam roll. If you have one of those massage guns, I've been big into that here lately, just to help kind of relax those muscles before you get in, because you don't want to get into bed or anything you do and then sit and stiffen up and tighten up and all that good stuff. So
that's exactly what I do most of the time.
Just sit, directly sit afterwards.
No. I've been a lot better about the cool down stuff and the stretching and whatnot, because it does suck as you get older. But yeah, I've not always been the most diligent. I will tell you real quick before we move. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have a reminder in my phone that goes off every night at 9 p.m. and it just says stretch. And I'm embarrassed to say the amount of times I have just flicked that off my screen and not moved from the couch. It's like you're watching a game. How hard would it be to just sit on the floor and just, do it?
And
but
just
yet, to me,
stretch a little bit. Yeah. I'm just too lazy. I will share one more thing before we move to the news and notes from the back post, brought to you by EFT. I texted you guys that I had access this week to a regular sauna, a dry sauna at the hotel, and I just wanted to give you a quick update. So number one, I'm pretty sure it fried my Apple Watch, so probably shouldn't take your Apple Watch in there.
They don't last in there.
No. And number two, it was so much more intense than the steam sauna. Like I was, I only did like a 3.5 mile walk. There wasn't like the fitness center wasn't really equipped. There were no free weights or anything like that. So it was really just a really like light walk. I thought, I'll go and I'll jump in the sauna for, half an hour. No, I made it 20 minutes. It was so much more intense, and I didn't figure out until the end, because there's a temperature reader on the outside. All I did was hit on and turn the damn thing on when sat in there. It was like 200 degrees in there. It's like 194 degrees. Oh. So at about 20 minutes,
if anything, you hit your limit.
Yeah, so after about 20 minutes, before my Apple Watch fried, it had my heart rate at about 130, which is really like, it's not like it. That's like medium intensity, like jogging, or like like a regular like indoor game. It's not quite sprinting, but yeah. So be a little bit smarter next time and not fry myself or my Apple Watch. So I figured that would be fun. You could make fun of me for being such an idiot.
Oh, we're giving all sorts of health tips going on here this evening. Like, take your Apple Watch off before you get in a 200-degree sauna. But no, I'd never make fun of it. I'm actually proud of you, man. You're doing great with your fitness journey, and proud to anybody who's out there working on themselves and their health right now. And You know what else I'm proud of people is if they get their kids involved in the beautiful game that is soccer, and there's no better place than
You're
Elite FT to get those kiddos excited. Dave,
that's right.
You want to kick off Elite FT news and notes?
That's right. The premier youth sports training program in the Metro East brings you these news and notes every week. Go check out 101 The Game Drive inside the Sports Academy. They have soccer programs from ages 2 all the way up through high school. They have specialized training for kids of all ages. There's speed and agility classes that my son really loves, private training, team training. They've got some camps coming up later on in the summer. I know Zoe's doing the finishing camp and later on in July. She's really excited about that because, you know, as defenders, we don't get an opportunity to score a lot, so we've got to be that much better because we don't get that amount of chances. So check them out, EliteFT.com, EliteFT Soccer on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They bring you these news and notes for the back post. Usually our news and notes focus on City 2 and the signings and transfers and stuff like that, just mostly like city-related stuff. But we wanted to kind of take a little bit of a detour because there's a lot. This is the summer of soccer, Eric, and next year will also be the summer of soccer with the World Cup. But this summer has been, outside of just City, we've talked about, you know, the Club World Cup and the CONCACAF Gold Cup. So we wanted to touch on those towards the end of the program. But actually, we're recording Monday night. I'm monitoring Manchester City and Al Hilal right now. So Manchester City, obviously, from the Premier League. Al Hilal from the Saudi Pro League. Manchester City in the 27th minute are up 1-0 right now. Al Hilal's giving them all they can handle. So this tournament is so cool, and I just wanted to highlight some of the big things that have gone on in this tournament. So number one, and this just happened this weekend. There were 3 MLS teams in the tournament, and it was Seattle Sounders, LAFC, and Inter Miami. Inter Miami were the only team to advance to the knockout stage, and we got to see Inter Miami against PSG in the knockout stage. Now, PSG put a beating on them, 4-0. I texted our soccer group chat. I kind of thought that was what was going to happen. I thought PSG was going to make an example of them. Turns out they actually took their foot off the gas because it probably could have been 6 or 7-0 in the second half if PSG hadn't decided, if they had decided they wanted to go for blood. But I wanted to talk about how cool it was to have the reigning European champions, essentially the best club team in the world this year, playing an MLS team. Now you can say, you know, it's an MLS team only in name only because it's got Messi and Jordi Alba and Busquets and Suarez, but it was still pretty cool. The concept of this tournament itself is pretty cool, to have these major teams playing non-friendlies, playing actual competitive games with high stakes. Like, you're talking, the winner of this tournament gets like $125 million. And the announcers are getting a little bit annoying with it because they keep talking about, this was a $13 million goal, and they love talking about shit like that. It's kind of dumb. But there is some significant financial incentive for the teams and the players. So it's cool to see these teams taking it seriously. I know there was some talk about some of these teams using it as a, you know, sort of a preseason thing. And Manchester City and Bayern are kind of doing that, like with some of their new signings. But the new signings are like studs. That's the thing. It's not like they're bringing in these bums.
Right.
But some of the other highlights are Fluminense won today. They knocked out Inter Milan, who are basically the second best club team in the world this year. Although I feel so bad for Inter. They finished second in basically everything this year. Second for the Scudetto, second for the Italian Cup to AC, second in the Champions League, and now they get knocked out now they get beaten in the knockout stage of this tournament, and they haven't had a break. So now they get to go home for a couple weeks and, you know, start over their preseason. And their coach left. Their coach is actually with Al Hilal right now, getting beat by Man City. So tough times being an Inter fan. Anything else? I know we've talked about with the broadcast being on DAZN, you haven't caught as many of these games as you would like. Anything else stand out to you about this particular tournament?
Yeah, I've seen a couple things. I love your point about it's nice getting to see like MLS, getting experience against some of these clubs not at a friendly level. I think that's been, fun to see, or just any of these clubs being over on American soil and not just for friendlies. You're seeing some of the top players, playing, and we don't get to see that as often. So I think that's been cool. One thing I also found really fun is there's actually a lot of Brazilians that go to Ready to Live Wellness with me, and we talk footy all the time, and they're big, I believe, Corinthians fans, and then I think I want to say Flamengo, but I may be wrong. But one of the things that they're excited about is, they always talk about the quality that you see down in Brazil, and it just doesn't get highlighted because we don't really see any, Brazilian league games really televised as much. So to them, it's been exciting for them to be able to show their quality of what their league actually does offer. I know it's probably similar to like what you may see in like the Italian league, where the gap between the top and the bottom is pretty, far, and mainly for financial reasons, just as it is with every other league. But that's been what I think has been cool, is a lot of these teams that we don't normally get exposed to, whether it's the Saudi League, the Brazilian League, anything like that, we're getting to see play and show their quality. Who is it for what team? Was it Palermo yesterday? You guys just signed like a left winger?
Palmeiras, yeah. Palmeiras and Botafogo.
Against Botafogo?
Yeah.
And
the game was kind of a
winger. I can't think of his name.
Oh God, yes. They pulled him out in the 60th minute. And I was really pissed about it because he was actually creating a lot of chances. But yeah,
that's probably your most exposure that you've had to that kid, right?
Estevao, yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen him play. Absolutely.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
Like you see these kids coming from Brazil all the time. Like Edric, when it was like this kid's 16 signing for Real Madrid, and you're like, I've never seen a highlight on this kid. Like anything, like Neymar, we got a little bit more of a taste because of the just global iconness that he had. Maybe a little bit with Vinny Jr., but like, man, like it's cool to get to see some of those guys. And then as I'm watching it, they're like, he signed with Chelsea, and I'm like, great. I hope he sucks. And then it's like, oh yeah, he starts.
He does not.
Like,
he's Estevao is his name. He's pretty good. There have been some people that say he's the next great one, the next great Brazilian player. So we'll see. We'll get to see him, in England hopefully this year, and then maybe we'll see him at the World Cup playing for the Yellows. But yeah, I don't know, man. The last cool thing that I'll touch on with this tournament is, and this is me directly stealing this from the Guardian Football podcast, but it happened today with Thiago Silva and Flamengo. Today I learned that not only did Thiago Silva not retire like I thought he did after he was done with Chelsea, but he plays for Flamengo, and that happened with Sergio. Not Flamengo. I'm sorry, that's not who he plays for. But it happened with Sergio Ramos also. Sergio Ramos is apparently still plays.
You didn't know he's still playing?
He plays for
Monterrey.
Oh my
right?
gosh, for Monterrey. Yeah, no idea that Sergio Ramos was still playing. It's kind of like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, but where in the world is Sergio Ramos? Like he's just he's made the rounds. So no, I think this is a cool tournament. I get that. And you and I were talking about, before the show, how you've got coaches now that are complaining about things like the weather delays, and the weather has been an issue, from the beginning, because you're playing in, Orlando, and you're playing in North Carolina, and it is hot in these places, man, and they're taking cooling breaks. I'm watching a cooling break right now between Man City and Al Hilal. But these are all things that are going to exist in the World Cup next year. So these guys that are going to be there, they're going to have to get used to it. But still very entertained by this tournament so far. And like you said, very cool. 4 Brazilian club teams that we never get exposed to. A Tunisian club team that we never get exposed to. Esperance, never knew that. When I saw Esperance, I was thinking that had to be Argentinian, something like that. But no, Tunisia. You've got Saudi teams. I think you had an Egyptian team. Just very cool.
Well, I think
all your European teams, of course.
Yeah, and then isn't River Plate? Aren't they Argentinian?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, River Plata and Boca Juniors.
You had Boca Juniors.
River Plata and Boca Juniors being in the same tournament terrified the hell out of me because if they had come up against each other in the knockout stage, you talk about
it would have been,
like
yeah.
it's just on the rivalry is just on such a different level in South America. Like it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
It absolutely is unhealthy and violent, but it's a cultural thing that we will never understand. So not too upset that both of those teams are out of this tournament because I don't want to see anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
You want to see anything ugly, and especially with like the current political climate going on in this country. Like it's the last thing we need is like a powder keg around a soccer game. So very cool tournament. I hope everything still stays smooth. Chelsea are still alive, so that's good. So yeah. Nothing to say about Chelsea being
No, I
still
think
alive.
It's been cool. Never, ever. I like I said, the second they announced that kid signed with you guys, I was like, I hope he's just god awful.
I saw that Marcus Rashford they didn't exercise his buyback clause today. Villa didn't, so he's still
Villa.
at United.
Funny how all these players that left us to go on loan, everybody's like, what a mistake. Funny how Chelsea didn't accept that. They paid us $5 million to take back Jadon Sancho, and then Villa, it's like, no, actually we're good on signing Rashford. Like, and then you got
Rashford was good for Villa too,
which I was surprised on that one. I thought he was going to take that one because I think they got Champions League football too. So he would. The biggest thing I see now is Barcelona won him, which I still don't understand how they have any money to sign anybody, let alone us. And then I'm seeing Garnacho's going to Chelsea, I guess, in a swap for Nduku. And then the only one that, like, weirdly enough, that I would say now that I'd be, I guess, fine to keep is Anthony. And he's the only one who's like, yeah, I'm for sure out of here. And it's like, dude, this team is just an absolute joke of a team for me right now. It's like I got City losing on the weekend, and then I see Man U news as far as transfers, and it's just like, what am I doing with my life?
The last thing that we'll say about that in particular is I took a picture. I was in the parking lot of the last game that Zoe had on Friday, and someone had misplaced. You think it was misplaced, or you think it was on purpose? We'll come back to that. But there was a Man United jersey, the Chevrolet red, which was a handsome kit, by the way. I liked that kit, but it was the Man U jersey, and it was cast aside in a filthy parking lot, just dirty and wet, and it was just the perfect metaphor for a once great team and what has happened to them. Just a filthy piece of parking lot trash.
Yeah, I texted you back after you sent me that, and I was like, while I don't condone it, I understand it. And it was just like, but I was also, sadly, I was about to message you back and be like, and just out of curiosity, what size is that jersey in? It
would have fit around your left leg. It was a youth something.
I figured it was a youth.
So
yeah, which is even worse because even the kids are just rejecting now.
The kids are done. So the other major piece of news and notes that I wanted to talk about real quick, and I know we're kind of up against the clock, but we had to talk about this because it was an exciting game, and it's leading to a game at City Park. So the U.S. men's national team on Sunday night defeated Costa Rica, albeit needing penalties to do it, but they defeated them 5-4 in penalties, something like that. It went to sudden death.
Yeah.
They took the lead. Costa Rica took the lead. The USA battled back. Then the USA took a 2-1 lead, and then allowed Costa Rica to equalize. And then Costa Rica did their usual Eshousery all game. Real quickly, there was a missed penalty in this game by Tim Tillman that he hit the post. But the challenge on him, I don't know who has seen it. That referee should be suspended for not giving a red card. It was full-blooded, studs up, boots up, right in the ankle. Couldn't have been any more obvious a red. He even went to VAR, and still he deemed it was a foul worth a penalty. But the boots up challenge with the studs into the ankle was not worthy of a red card. So Costa Rica dodged a huge bullet. They should have been playing down most of that game. And man, nevertheless, the USA team didn't take care of business in regulation. But the newest sensation in American soccer, Matt Freese, with not one, not two, but 3 penalty saves in the shootout.
Yeah.
And the U.S. men's team, they advance, albeit with a, what I consider to be a third team squad for the most part. They found a way to get it done. And man, they were excited. You could tell they really, that group really wanted this to win this game. And it's Costa Rica, and yeah, it's a quarterfinal, but this was a big stepping stone for this group of kids. You've got a lot of MLS players, and then you sprinkle in a couple of veterans like a Tyler Adams and a Tim Ream. But this was huge. I mean, it doesn't mean anything if they turn around and lose to Guatemala in St. Louis on Wednesday. But this was a huge boost for some of these guys' confidence. Diego Luna got his first goal. Tillman looked great, albeit getting the crap kicked out of him all game. But yeah, proper CONCACAF quarterfinal that ends up with a USA win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shout out Freeze, because even the ones that they did score, I think he got like a finger on most of them. Like,
yeah,
that dude was unreal, and they kept highlighting it right before the PK started. Like, he's really good, he's got a lot of experience, good. But I'm sitting there going, like, no goalie is like, I don't know, I mean, good, but yeah, he showed it. Like, he was phenomenal in there, and like really saved a lot of hanging heads. I kind of joked around with you guys saying, like, boy, the Berhalter should do anything to bring down the U.S. men's national team, because Berhalter missed one of those PKs. And then just out of, like, meanness, they cut the camera directly to his dad in the stands, and it's just like, man, that guy can't catch a break. But yeah, it was
I thought exciting... I thought he had an okay game too, Berhalter. Like, for as much as I think he's kind of overrated. I thought he had a good game.
Yeah. His distribution on the ball was really, really good, and put Richards in a lot of good positions that just unfortunately couldn't finish off. So yeah, he did have a good game. It wouldn't have been like anything to hold on him, but you're right. It was exciting seeing those guys. I think they're taking this that group is a little personal, just with all the talking heads that think they know everything, that haven't accomplished anything in their life as far as like international level, that want to tell them that they're, this should be a cakewalk. This should be just, be happy for them. I think you pointed out directly after Lala's first thing he says is, don't pat yourselves on the back. Like, they advance, man. And it was, a tough, grimy game. Just be happy for your country that they won. Yeah. The other thing that I'll say that I'm surprised about, just on the socials, because you're right, that game will take place Wednesday, July 2nd at City Park, so super exciting for that. A game of importance like this, and the U.S. to be there is super cool. But I'm shocked just on the socials how many Guatemalan fans that I've seen on the being like, I want to try and get tickets any way I can get tickets. So I think it's going to be a poppin' City Park come Wednesday night, both for U.S. as well as I think Guatemala is going to show up as well. So it'll be an exciting game. That game will be, again, Wednesday, July 2nd at 6 p.m., and it'll be on FS1. So if you have that channel, make sure and check it out, because hopefully they can keep it going. I think, yeah, to your point, there should be no reason that the U.S. should not be advancing in this situation, but never overlook anybody, especially when it comes to
Have you looked at ticket prices for this game?
I saw somebody saying that somebody said something to the effect of they had their tickets on and they were sitting, and literally the second the PK went in, it sold. He was like, I should have, and he's like, now I want to get in, and he's like, but Scott, tickets have jumped dramatically.
So last night,
are they even available?
They're available. So last night I was keeping an eye on this myself. So they had single tickets, and I can't remember where they were. I don't know if it was supporter section or what. But they had single tickets last night before that game that were like $73. After they won, the cheapest one moved up to $88. I just checked this. I haven't looked at this all day. The cheapest ticket right now, $209 for one ticket.
Ooh, okay.
Piss off with that. There's no chance in hell. It's just absurd, man. Like the gouge, this is so inexcusable. It's gross. $209.
Yep.
That's bullshit, is what it is, and it's going to end up being a half-empty stadium. So congratulations, you had a chance to do some cool stuff, and you decided that you wanted money instead. And I don't know. Obviously, that's being driven by third party probably for the most part, but or whatever. I'm over it. I'm over the greed. I'm over all the greed that's involved in this game. I'm right there with you, man. But not to associate that with our friends at EFT, because they give you the most bang for your buck out of anybody. They're the premier youth sports training program in the Metro East. Elite FT. Check them out. And they brought you this week's news and notes from the Back Post.
Love it. Love that transition. One last thing, just clarify with me. I believe also starting here soon is the Women's Euros. I believe it's
women's starts,
so that'll be exciting to watch as
well.
I think it's
the women's
July.
starts at the end of July. Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, what a fun summer, and it's only going to continue next summer. I love that about international tournaments. But, yeah, those were your Elite news and notes, once again brought to you by Elite FT. Check them out at 101 The Game Drive and as well at EliteFT.com. We want to thank them as well as all our sponsors for helping us bring this show to you guys. Started out with our title sponsors as in R2L Wellness. Go check them out for all your health and wellness needs at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard and online at R2L Wellness. And then go get that swag from our studio sponsors as well. Warrior Logo Wear. Check them out at 12 East Main Street in Mascoutah, Illinois. And then coming up later this week, we will have your STL Kolache preview. Go get you a good old box of kolaches at 1530 South Kirkwood Road in St. Louis. And then if you're still feeling a little hungry, which I know we will be for some South End submissions, they'll be brought to you by Felix's Pizza Pub, City on Tap Bar. So if you got a place to go watch the game this weekend, that's the place to be. Go check them out at 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. Make sure you guys are also following us on all our socials to keep up with everything South End Supporters. On Instagram, we're South End Supporters. Our Twitter and our Reddit is _SES_podcast STL. Make sure you're also checking out our Facebook and our YouTube page to keep up with us and everything we're doing. So, for myself, Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning Setter back, Dave Wyckoff, and for our buddy David Heck, you've been listening to South End Supporters. We'll see you next week, and until then, let's go City.